So today's Zoom session is just supposed to be a more informal session, just venting about what's been going on after the election, because I know everyone in this chat has felt the effects of the election. Women in particular, the Black community, just any marginalized group is definitely going to be affected by the election already on day one because of the amount of executive orders that Trump has been signing and putting into place. And although some of them were stopped, like I know the birthright citizenship one that he tried to do was put to a temporary halt for now. It's still just scary that some man thinks that he can come into his position of power and just make all of these changes that completely go against our Constitution and what we stand for as a country. So I know that I've been feeling really heavy with what's been going on, and I'm sure you guys have too. And that's why I wanted to do this Zoom today. So thank you guys for being here. I feel like at times like this, it's really important to just turn to your community and lean on each other and be able to talk about what's going on. And it is really depressing. So like what I'm gonna share starts off really depressing because that's how I felt after this election. But then also after talking about how scary and like sad it is, talking about, hope and solutions because that's all we have right now. So yeah, that's kind of the plan for today. Um, I wrote a journal entry personally. It kind of turned into a little bit of a poem. That's just what seems to happen a lot of the time when I write. It's like part poem, part journal entry. So, yeah, very vulnerable piece of mine and just kind of showing like my feelings after the election. It might be a little bit startling how it starts off. Like I said, I've been really feeling it this election. I was just like, I had a lot of hope for America and our progress. And I thought that more of us were progressed than we were, I guess. So I did feel a big letdown. One thing I did see that gave me a little bit of hope was this chart on TikTok that was showing if only Gen Z had voted in this election, it was like the whole country was mostly blue. So if only Gen Z voted, Kamala would have won, basically. So that gives me hope for the future that we maybe have, a little more sense, which does make sense. I mean, I feel like our generation is a lot more open-minded and we're just intermixing a lot more with cultures and yeah, so it does make sense. I feel like we have that woke mindset, which I saw this quote that said the woke mindset is really just empathy. And I agree with that. I think it's just empathy for different communities and for things that may not affect you, but you still like care about people in the world, human beings. Um, so yeah, it does give me hope that maybe our generation will be the change, but right now, of course, it's a little grim with these results and with what's happening. So yeah, now I will go ahead and share my journal entry, and then after that, I'll open it up for some discussion. Oh my gosh. One sec, actually. I'm sorry. My dog is going to be really loud. So if you just give me one moment, I'm going to just get her out of here. So sorry about that. He was like having a tantrum. So you would have definitely heard that in the back and it would have ruined my writing. So this is a journal entry called Post-Election Thoughts. It starts off, like I said, sad, but don't worry, it gets better. America hates Black women. Throughout history, the Black woman has been the most disrespected, dehuman dehumanized as if we don't feel pain, sexualized and forced to grow up too fast, treated like objects, exploited to the masses, your favorite group to copy, while at the same time telling us to be quiet. Having the nerve to think we have nothing to say, you drown us out in our places of employment and make sure we never climb the ranks. When we are passionate, we are too aggressive. When our loved ones die too soon, we are too angry. Wouldn't you be angry too? if America constantly degraded you, if America hated you so much when you were overqualified for the role, they still made it a close race. They'd rather choose a rapist and a felon. That's what I learned from this election. I'd hope we were further along in our progress. Instead of a Black woman, we'd rather have a narcissist. America let Black women down. Again. Unfortunately, these feelings have grown all too familiar to us. And still, through all of the pain and despise, we are forced to rise. We are the most resilient because we have to be. We are the healers and sorry, I can't read my handwriting. We are the healers and give to all of society. We are the strength and the nurturers, the innovation. Black women are 71.5% of all master degrees currently. We have persisted and resisted like no other group. And so that's what we will continue to do. And I promise you, you will feel us and you will hear us. And that's what I wrote. I feel like it just kind of encapsulated all of my feelings about the election, um, the sadness, but also the fact that Black women have always kept society together, have always continued the fight. And that's what we're going to continue to do because we don't have another option. Um, so yeah, thank you guys for letting me get that off my chest. Writing really helps me process these things. It's hard in law school because you don't really have a moment to be able to really take anything in because you're just constantly working and trying to stay on top of things. But being able to write really helps me get everything out when I have a moment to. So yes, any thoughts on my poem that anyone would like to add? Or I guess it's a journal entry. Yes, Jenny, go ahead.
I would just like to say that like it really spoke to me and I'm so happy you talked about it because like newsflash, been black my whole life, been a black woman my whole life. But I don't think I've ever really come to terms with the validation that I seek in white people until this year, my whole 21 years of living, and like how much I continue my day-to-day life to cater to white people and make myself smaller. And even when I know in the back of my head that like I shouldn't have to do that and I should be able to enter a room the way I do. Like, for example, I had an interaction with one of my superiors at my job, and she was not doing her job at all, mind you, to that. But I tried to offer her some constructive criticism and she immediately won off me and told me I was being aggressive. I was really talking to her in the tone that I'm talking to you right now. And it's just like really reminded me that like black women are seen as like one of the number one enemies straight from birth. Like I never even got an opportunity to be anything else. Like immediately born, and it is really heavy. And coming to that realization like was really heavy for me because I I'm trying to unlearn old habits and not constantly seek that validation from white people because obviously they have been severely disappointing, especially in our political climate. And I know that they are not looking out for me. And so I have to look out for myself and my community. And so I appreciate you speaking on that because it really did resonate with me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like this election just really showed that we are not as far along as we thought, with Black women especially. Like I was not trying to hear all the words that people were saying about how Kamala could have did better with her campaigning and how she should have done this and that. Like, let's be real, she could have done it all and she still probably wouldn't have won because of our attitude towards Black women. And this woman was overly qualified and still it was not even close for her to win. Like it shouldn't have been close at all. She should have completely outweighed him in every aspect, but she for some reason did not. And so yeah, I definitely get that. It's like I think this really showed us that our advocates really need to step up, because when I was looking at the statistics, it showed actually that Black people came out in numbers more than they ever have before. I think like 70% of women voted for Kamala, of Black women voted for Kamala, and then I want to say, no, I think it was 70% of Black men voted for Kamala, and like 80 something percent of Black women voted for her. So we really did our part in our community. And I think a lot of other communities did let us down in this election. It's tough to talk about, but it's something we need to talk about because I mean, it showed in the numbers, you know. Genesis said, I believe the only reason she did not win was because she was a black woman. And I definitely agree with that as well. Yes, Jenny?
Sorry, I'm so opinionated about this. I also want to point out that I feel like even my generation, like Gen Z, as much as a lot of people think we're just emotional or whatever, and like we're always have our memes and we're not politically illiterate, I think that they also showed up more than they ever have in any election. And so that is what is so crazy about this. And that is why the only reason you can't change my mind is that because nobody was ready to have a black woman president. And it is very, very disheartening because they are missing out and people are going to realize all the people who advocated day one with all of the bills that have already been written in are going to regret the decision they made all because they couldn't look past their ignorance, and it's very, very disappointing.
Yes, it's so true. I was just saying that before you hopped on, Genesis. I saw this TikTok of if only Gen Z voted, and it was like the whole country was basically blue, like we were the majority. So that's why I was saying it does give me hope. Our generation seems to have more empathy for one another, and it gives me hope for the Black community getting on the same page more because that has also been a struggle in the past. You know, there's only a like few handful of celebrities that I've seen that have been using their platform to um, you know, promote Trump and say that he's for us, even though his initiatives have clearly proven that he's not. I mean, he already rolled back a 1964 I think it was discrimination in employment executive order. He's rolled back DEI. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. My school, before the order even took place, they were like sending out emails being like, oh, we're going to roll this back, like no more spaces for people of color to gather. And like people were just jumping on the opportunity to be able to take out DEI, you know? And I think it just speaks a lot to our values. Well, it's not surprising, I guess, from where I go to school, but it was just really disappointing to me because there's already so few spaces for us at that school. And now it's just like people are feeling even more comfortable to make us feel unwelcome. And so, yeah, it is disappointing, but it's also showing where everybody stands. It's showing true colors. I think a lot of people are also having voter regret. I've seen people like posting some things being like, "Oh shoot, like I didn't know this was going to affect me." Like, yeah, he don't like you either. You're not special. I promise you. If you're a person, if you're not a white rich male, you are not benefiting from him being in office. And I think that is pretty clear now from these orders that he's been signing. Yes, Genesis.
I was actually talking to one of my managers yesterday about this, about the DEI, and like she had made this comment. She was like, "I think that if DEI, as a white person, if DEI is affecting you negatively, then you're the problem. Period. You, for some reason, are so like his word of DEI violence that doesn't even exist. Those words are contradictory of each other, and it is insane that." People are trying to make up this idea of like it's harmful to have DEI in a workplace, and I'm like, equality. You don't want me to be treated the same way as you when I'm doing, you know what I mean? And so it's an interesting because she pointed that out. She was like, the only reason that he would be bothered by that is because he is the problem. No one else is affected. Nobody else is bothered by it unless you are prejudiced, racist, narcissist. All this.
It's facts. I mean, the whole world belongs to white people. Like, why can't we have our spaces? Why can't we have some topics in school? Like, it's not harmful. I just, yeah, it's not clicking for me either. Mom, go ahead.
Well, if we're on the subject of DEI, I think, yes, very much if you have an issue with it, you may be the problem. But there's also a misunderstanding because there are DEI programs that do include white people and people from all cultures. And I work for a German founded company, which I won't say its name because I don't know if I'll get in trouble. So, but I work for a German founded company who is global. and they have doubled down on their DEI programs. We have many programs under the umbrella of DEI for every culture, every sexuality, every anything you can think of. We have it. We have Berg, which is Black Employer Resource Group. We have one for LGBTQ plus. We have I can't even tell you how many we have. We have 20 plus different groups. And we have one that's for neurodivergence that they just started this year. And they use these programs to put people into mentorship and community and to do things together and to make Phillips, excuse me, make my employer a better place for everyone, right? So we're all building off of each other. So it's that much stronger because we're not fighting each other, we're supporting each other. And we join some of those groups even if we don't identify with one of those groups to get a better understanding of those, and we can get promotions within those groups as well. So I think that it's really reframing how you think of DEI programs versus just getting rid of them. You're on mute, kid.
I know. I was like, whoops. I think that's so amazing to work at a place of employment where you can actually feel supported because that's very rare these days. Um, I love that they have all these groups, and I love the people that are standing on business either way. Like Costco, we still gonna shop at Costco. They got our backs, okay? Phillips, or my mom's place of
Cool, cool, cool.
employment, they got our backs. So it's really nice to also see those companies that just don't care what Trump is saying. They're saying we're going to support people either way. It gives me hope for sure that we do still have some good people out there. Genesis?
Oh, wait, okay. I got confused. I thought I lowered my hand before I unmuted. Anyways, I was just gonna say that I wanted to add on to what Auntie Tiffy had to say about like joining these groups. I think that that's also important for everyone to know is that just because maybe you don't personally identify with the group, it does not mean that you shouldn't at least try to educate yourself or ask questions. Something I've learned so far in my life is it is so much better to walk into an area and ask more questions than to walk in and act like you know what's going on. And I have met the most amazing people ever joining groups that I have nothing to do with. Like one time I took a introvert seminar. I think everyone here clearly knows I'm not an introvert, but I very much wanted to speak to people and understand like that perspective because it's not an experience that I have at all. But I still learned from it, and it helped me have more compassion and understanding for those individuals. And so I just think that everybody should have that. So I think it's cool you mentioned that, like joining those groups, because it is important to get to know people around you. And I think that's what we're lacking. The people that are running our country are lacking those emotional intelligence skills. They have no empathy. They don't want to step into anybody else's shoes because their shoes are just fine. Well, of course their shoes are just fine. They're running the entire country to cater to their pockets, to their needs. And so of course they don't care who else is underneath them, right? But if they did for a second to step into somebody else's shoes completely opposite of them, like, man, what I love for Mr. Trump step into the shoes of a trans Black woman in America and see how that experience is so that maybe he would understand that his ego is getting in his way of knowing and working with very, very cool people. And so, yeah, I just had to add that because I am also an advocate for let's join groups, even if you don't personally associate with them, because you will learn so much and your heart will only grow.
I completely agree. I feel like this group is like testament of that. I mean, majority of the people that join are our advocates. So shout out to you guys because it's noted like we can't do this alone. We need to all come together. We need to all find unity. And even though we live in capitalist America that tries to make us compete all the time and seem like we have nothing in common, we all really have more in common than we do that's different. So I think, yeah, I completely agree with that. Like just stepping out of your comfort zone and maybe listening to a different perspective that you wouldn't have thought to listen to before. Did anybody else have anything to add? If not, I was going to share Trey, he couldn't come today. He said he'll try to stop in. He sent me a long research thing that he did. It's more on classism, which I think is also important and is really vital in this election as well. Classism and racism often intersect, so I really like to talk about it when I talk about racism. So this is from Trey. So the recent ban of TikTok and the migration to Red Note has led me to shift some perspectives. So this won't really involve race, but rather class. While race is very real, racism, discrimination are very real, and it's intersectional with that. I'm going to steer clear of that today. We live in a capitalistic society. In order for our society to function properly and for us to live on the utopian end of capitalism, where healthy competition drives innovation, efficiency, economic growth, where it benefits society by creating jobs and living standards. And for everyone to benefit, there would need to be programs like universal health care, where it is accessible to everyone, and subsidized or low cost higher education and welfare to help balance these inequalities. Ethical business practices, prevention of environmental damage, and prevention of financial crises like the one we live in now. At the inauguration, billionaires seated before the president's cabinet collectively held a net worth of $1 trillion. I'm gonna see a little bit. To put in perspective, if each of these individuals redistributed 20 to 30% roughly of 200 to 300 billion of their wealth back into the economy, all would remain billionaires with policies backing this. This would have the potential to create jobs, reduce homelessness, relieve medical, and increase the spending of the public education, healthcare, and transportation. When billionaires hoard wealth and stand behind the president in positions of power, what do you think is going to come out of that? An oligarch. Oh, sorry. An oligarch is a person or in this case, people who hold significant power through wealth, often in ways that undermine democracy, where democracy takes a back seat to corporate interests. And there's good reason to believe that that is where we're headed. And fears, oh, something just happened. Sorry. Of American people who voted against this cross racial lines are valid. When wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, it can shift power away from the general populace and towards corporate interests. Policies and legislation often reflect the priorities of the wealthy elite rather than the broader public, leading to economic disparities and social unrest. An executive order is a directive issued by the President of the United States that has the force of the law. It is used to manage operations within the federal government and implement policies without the need for approval from Congress. Executive orders are based on existing statutory authority or the president's constitutional powers. It's very apparent we're living in an economic crisis, yet majority of Trump's actions don't seem to reflect much concern for this. Just in this week alone, back just in this week alone that Trump has taken back office, he's rescinded over half of Biden's 160 orders, including DEI initiatives, AI risk mitigation, withdrawal from the World Health Organization, immigration policy enforcement, which has caused federal authorities to initiate immigration enforcement actions in cities like Chicago, following directives from the administration to increase daily arrests. So I took a class on neoliberalism and we talked a lot about that. And I think it's very valid. It was definitely scary to see like this group of billionaires just sitting behind Trump. The fact that he gave one of them position in office and just the things that he's already signing into place definitely makes it seem like we are heading towards an oligarchy. I think that's how you say it. I just learned what that is. Um, Bernie has been very vocal on this. And one thing about Bernie, he never claims a side. He never claims left or right. Like the man just wants what's best for the people. And so I'm always really tuned into like what he's saying. And he was very disappointed. He gave Trump a shot. He was like, okay, let's see what this guy is gonna do. And then when Trump was like saying everything he was gonna do in office, it had nothing to do with the middle class. It had nothing to do with making things better for majority of Americans. It was not anything beneficial economically for us. It was all benefiting the rich. So I think that's a very valid concern that he's sharing with this. Yes, Genesis.
Also not I'd also like to not negate like the fact that he openly, possibly, I guess, I don't want to get arrested, allegedly admitted to rigging the polls. Like literally out loud was like, "Thank you so much to Mr. Elon Musk for your work." And how else are we supposed to interpret that? Because I know a lot of things are like, okay, like we don't actually know, and I will get hear that out if there was an explanation, but there wasn't. And the fact that we know that Elon's highly intelligent, and it just feels like right now, as much as like a lot of people are like, you're just mad because you're anti-Trump, or you're just mad because of these things. No, I'm mad because it feels like he's laughing in our faces. As I'm mad because he's mocking people, even the same people who are sitting here going, no, Trump has us. He's mocking you too. He has no respect for you or your right to vote, because regardless, he wanted to win. He wanted to be in power, period. Whether or not we put him there. And it's just like infuriating in that way, where I'm like, you can't sit here and look at me and not be mad that our right allegedly just got manipulated. It doesn't even matter. We were given this right, and now we're basically being told that it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if everyone in the whole world voted for Kamala, because he could have just switched it to whatever he pleased. Now, obviously, if it was that dramatic, there'd probably be a lot of you know what I'm saying.
I saw that too, and I don't know how else to interpret it either. I just feel like he tries to explain everything away. I mean, we all saw what Elon Musk hit in his speech, and that was the Roman salute. And then they try to explain that away like, no, you were doing something we all are very familiar with, and that is terrifying. This man holds a position in office. Like, these are people in power. They are narcissists. They are evil people, and they now hold very powerful positions. And I think what else is weighing different about this election is the fact that um, the House and the Senate, they're all mainly Republican. The Supreme Court is mainly Republican. So it just feels like he's going to be able to get a lot of things passed that normally we have these barriers to stop, these separation of powers. It doesn't feel like it's going to be as effective this time around. Like I said, I do feel hopeful that he won't be able to do crazy, crazy things, because I mean, ending birthright citizenship was insane. Like, we've always had that in our constitution, and I'm glad that that got halted. So we can come together from different sides to agree on some things that are just not right. That does give me hope. And I hope that that happens more often, because I feel like that's what they want to see a lot of the time is just, oh, this is a left issue. Oh, this is a right issue. They want us to fight and pick a side when really a lot of our generation is independent these days, I feel like. And so I think these labels are just to continue to make us conflict and not unite. So, yes. Anybody else have anything to add?
No, I just want to say I agree with you as far as we all need to come together and unite, because we also saw a very clear line drawn with other cultures that you would not expect to be voting for Trump, showing up in large numbers for Trump, and a lot of immigrants showing up for Trump. And I don't know if they just didn't understand what he was capable of, or if it is, like you said, a lot of these cultures we clash with, a lot of other cultures and brown cultures and just even African American culture clashing with like Hispanic and Asian cultures. Like if we all of us like banded together, we could make the biggest change, but we fall for the okey doke that they're telling us about each other. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it just continues that divisiveness. And then they show up and vote for him, not understanding that he's going to tear your families apart.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely been one of the saddest things. I saw a story on TikTok about how ICE went to a school in Chicago. I don't know what grade level it was. I want to say, was it elementary?
It was
Like,
elementary.
that's just
Crazy.
so insane to me. Like, that literally brought a tear to my eye, because what are we really doing? Like, what are we saying we stand for when we do things like that? And shout out to those teachers that said, nah, you ain't coming in here and you're not taking these kids, because that's what we need. We all need to stand up for each other at this point. We need to stand up against the narcissists. this is our moment. Like, it's literally, if you're not saying something, if you're not educating, if you're not doing something, like, you're taking the side of the oppressor at this point. So it's now or never, guys. Now or never. We'll go Mia and then Genesis after Mia.
Can you hear me? Perfect. Tiffany, I kind of wanted to go off of what you were saying. My roommate, she lives in Seattle now, but she's from Florida, and I had something explained to me that I thought was really interesting because Florida is obviously a very different political climate than where most of us live here in Washington. And there's a large Hispanic population that is from places like Venezuela and Cuba. And so I think a lot of it has to do with propaganda from the right saying that leftism is going to, like, socialism is super bad, and socialism and communism are not the same thing, but I think they're often intertwined as being equally not helpful for people. So people who are immigrants from countries like that are so terrified of going back to communism that they're willing to do and, vote for somebody who in the long run won't help them. Like, we can understand that, but the right, I think, does so much propaganda and fear-based tactics to convince people that socialism will ruin their lives. And for people who come from places where it's the political climate is different, the fear works and it convinces people to vote in a way that might not help them in the long run.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, Mia. I've also heard similar, and it's scary that Trump now has a hand in TikTok because I've seen things going around that the propaganda is only getting worse. And I think propaganda exists on both sides, but I definitely think there was a lot of misinformation. And I think when people actually took the time to, like, read the policies and things after the fact, like, one of the biggest searches was, how do I change my vote? Like, people didn't do the research beforehand, and they kind of fell into that propaganda, and I think that did drive a lot of people's votes. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thanks for sharing that, Mia. And Genesis?
Yeah, I want to quickly add on to what you just said. I'm studying sociology right now, and quite literally that is the biggest thing, is that propaganda and social norms, whatever is fed to you the most and whatever gets to you first, is going to be your primary, like, point of view. As much as, like, we want to say and be like, oh, we are free thinkers, I think that there is a lot of free thinkers, but I also think it is important to acknowledge how much society pressures people to, like, have a certain point of view. And so when you are going online and you're searching up things, and the first things that you're seeing are negative propaganda about more liberal leaning views, you're going to immediately kind of have that associated in the back of your brain. And now, even if you had furthermore research, you're going to go, but what about that article I saw? What about what I said? Because I feel like you're just saying that to combat what I already know. Sometimes we confuse that rhetoric and that propaganda as fact, when in reality there is no, it's not based, it's based off of, like, bias and assumptions. It's not in actual statistics or factual evidence. I also wanted to say that this is, I think, a prime opportunity for people who have very dividing views to kind of join against one agenda and to get a narcissist out of office. And simply because I think that a lot of people, especially in our, like, middle and lower classes, are going to realize that he's not for them. And in our lower middle classes, there are Republicans and Democrats, and more people with conservative views and more people with liberal views. And so I think that this is a prime opportunity for people to kind of look past whatever view and understand that right now, everybody, doesn't matter who you stand with, is going to get, sorry, excuse my language, but fucked. Like, he isn't here for, he is very much working for himself and benefiting him and his sponsors, obviously. And I think that this is going to, I hope at least, this is something that I've been kind of holding on to and trying to keep an eye on as these next 4 years play out. I think this is a prime opportunity for us to all kind of put aside that divide that they tried to push on us for years and years and years with these political parties, and just realize that hey, regardless of where you stand, you're still suffering from what is happening in office, and that we should try to join forces and use our voices to combat this. Because again, like you said, I think like that divide of Democratic Party and Republican Party is what's keeping us so separate right now. And a lot of people, I will say, like for like right before the election, were like, I don't respect him as a human. I don't like him at all. But because he's the Republican vote, that is who I'm voting for. And that made me so sad. And then it made me sad because it was a lot of people like I'm really close to, and I was like, that's super, super, super disappointing, because you don't are you even looking at policies? It doesn't matter. Like there are so many people. The things that gave me a little bit more hope was all the people on TikTok actually that were like, my dad's been a Republican for years and years and years and always did the Republican vote, but this year was the first time that he voted Democratic or whatever, because he actually looked at the policies. He actually looked at what was going to happen to him and his family, and he did not want to sacrifice his family over his own ego, you know. So yeah, I think this is the most vital time for us to try to mitigate that divide completely and band together to get him out.
Yes, I completely agree. And I was also going to say, since we did start talking a little bit about immigrants, I know that my brother's girlfriend, she had some family members that kind of explained their perspective on it. I know she's shy. So, Jelly, if you hear this, you could totally just put it in the chat, but I'd love to have that perspective as well of what you heard from them, and maybe the aftermath of how they're feeling now after the election. So, if you do have any thoughts, feel free to drop those in the chat. But yes, I completely agree. And I think, yeah, it's just not even about parties anymore. It's about, you know, like everyone's saying, just standing up for humanity, basically, like the majority of humanity, not the top 5%. Okay. The real people on the real ground that are feeling the effects of these policies. Um, so yeah, anybody else have anything to add to this before Genesis? I know you had a journal entry, right? Anybody?
I'll just say something real quick. I'm almost 50 years old, and I, for the first time after an election, whether I voted for the person who won or not, for the first time am very frightened for my children and my family and those I don't even know that are going to be negatively impacted and possibly lose basic human rights, so that other people could feel good about what was going to be put in their pocket, which is actually not even going to be put in their pocket. Money took place, because that was what I heard over and over and over again. People chose him because they thought he was going to help their economy, and we've already seen that's not true. And even if that was the case, is that worth losing our basic human rights? And that's the part that I struggle to get past with people that I know voted for Trump. I struggle with that.
Facts. I completely agree. I heard that argument a lot as well. But as you said, if you actually did the research, he's not helping our economy, guys. Like he's only going to be helping the rich. And I think it's clear what team he's on. I mean, he had them all lined up behind him like they're in a gang. So I completely agree. Like it's sad because our country is so based in capitalism that it's like that's the driver, money, money, money. But we really are starting to have an issue when money comes before humanity, for sure. Keon, I see your hand raised. Is I mean Jelly gonna say something?
Indeed.
Yay. Perfect.
Hi, guys. So, I guess I would just like to say, um, I definitely have a weird perspective on all of this because a lot of my family is immigrants, and it's just weird to hear from them that I guess, like any support to him at all. And I'm glad to say it is only a few family members, but it's still just crazy to hear. And I can tell you, like, being their family, that, like, this is just not an offensive view. They truly are just uneducated. So it's like, I mean, it's just sad to say, like, because that is my family, and they are gonna be the people that are affected. And it's scary, but I guess, yeah. And as far as like, I guess they're thinking from what's happened afterwards and like whether they voted, thankfully, like I said, they can't vote. So I guess that's kind of their view. But yeah, I don't really talk to them too much, but I can definitely say like thankfully my dad is not like that and he is often the one to shut them down and let them know like he does not like you or support you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jolie. Yeah, it is really disappointing when it's people in your own family. Like a lot of males that I've talked to, I've literally had to delete off of social media platforms, people close to me even that you would expect to support. Like these things, if anything, if you can't think for yourself, what about your sister? What about your aunt? What about a woman you love in your life? What about a person of color you have in your life? What about someone who is low income you have in your life? Like literally just take a step outside of your shoes, your own shoes into somebody else's, and that should be enough. Like that should be the bottom line. Anything else, I really don't get because yeah, that's what it came down to me. Like we could talk about everything else. We could talk about disagreeing on the economy. We could talk about disagreeing on having church in school, this and that. But bottom line is he is trying to hurt people you love, and that should take precedent over anything else. So, yes. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of your thoughts. Oh, Rachel, yes, go right ahead.
Well, thank you, ma'am. So I just want to say, like, thank you for always coming. Hey, girl. Thank you for always like setting up these Zoom meetings because I know that you guys are busy. So, and I'm very impressed. And thank you for always speaking, Genesis. I always like to hear what you guys have to say because obviously it's not an experience that I live, but I know that it surrounds me in so many different ways. But something, so I've been getting back into my religion and I was going through the Bible and Tiffany said something that reminded me like in Genesis. Hey, Genesis. It tells the story. I think it's like a children's story, so most people recognize it. When a group of people, they were like, let's build a really tall building, and try to reach God. And God was like, no, like, you're not going to do this. I'm going to give each of you a different language, and then you will disperse and go out about your ways. Like oh my gosh, sorry. I've had like 6 hours of studying today. I'm doing my best here. The reason he gave each family a different language is because he knew that together, if all of us spoke the same language, together we could do anything. Nothing is impossible, is what he said. And it just like reminds me of how much we could get done if we were to be together in that way. Like everyone was speaking the same language of empathy and care and understanding. But I think the devil gets in the way a lot of, and the devil, regardless of your religion, but evil gets in the way. Money corrupts all. These people, they're corrupted. Their minds can't see past what they want, and what they want is more money, more power. And the way to do that is to divide, and they're doing that very well. And I always think about how can we bring people together, but it starts in the communities. It always starts in the communities, and you always have to go small, which sucks because why does Donald Trump get to go so big, And like, why do we have to stay small and do what we can? But I guess do what you can is always the only opportunity you have.
I really like that point, Rachel, because I was just talking with Julie about this. We were kind of venting about it, and it can feel really overwhelming when you look at the big picture of like change and like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. There's so much we have to fix. but like it really starts individually. It starts like small, like you're saying, like maybe educating that one family member you have, or maybe speaking out more, or maybe donating to a cause, like, or maybe incorporating these things in your career, like in your extracurricular activities. Like it's really starting small in communities and then going bigger and bigger. Like, yeah, big policy changes are nice. I'm still going to go after those once I'm an attorney. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also going to be helping people on an individual level. And like, that's very important as well. So I like that. And Julie and then Genesis. Wait, Julie, you muted, girl. You muted.
Hi, sorry. I really like what you said, Rachel. I'm also a believer. I am a Christian, and one thing that really just hurt me during this election was how Trump used, our faith to lure so many people to this just like horrible way of living. I'm like, the Jesus I know would sit with the poor, feed the rich, let in the immigrants, the people that have nothing, and feed and clothe the people around him, and not take away and steal and beat and separate families. If Jesus was here today, I think he would be devastated and shattered, just like the rest of us. And it's just horrible seeing what's happening around in just a week. I'm just absolutely shocked, and just how much power is given to one man and how much he can do in just 1 week. Like the democracy we have built, like, is just falling. um I hope, and I am hopeful. I think Ray and I have talked about this, and like it's hard not to lose hope, and it's hard not to be sad. I think it is important to feel those feelings and feel angry and feel fearful for what's to come, but it is important to rise up and to resist, and to keep educating people around you. I grew up really conservative. I am from a Russian family. We came here when I was like 4. And so all we knew was we escaped an oligarchy. We left Russia. We are in an oligarchy now. Like, if you don't know what that is, that's like when a small population of billionaires hold the majority of the wealth and hold the power in a political, area. If you guys want a book on it, I'm reading a book on it that's really, really good and really goes into kind of the details of it. But the only other oligarchy in the world is Russia. And I have family still back in Russia, and everything that was going on with the war between Russia and Ukraine. In our minds, we're like, this is awful. How could this man do this? They are so brainwashed that they think that Putin is doing the right thing. And so I honestly believe that a lot of the majority of the US is just brainwashed and believes Trump's lies, believes his false hopes that he's going to bring down the prices of groceries and gas and make our lives better, when he like literally said the moment he won the election, oh, like it's impossible to bring down a price when it's high up already, which is like you're contradicting everything that you just promised the people that you were helping. So I'm just really devastated. I can go on and on about how many things are wrong and this and that, and I agree with every single one of you. I am also really glad to hear different perspectives. I'm really glad that Ray, you create this space where we can vent and share about our struggles and what we're feeling and everything. And I think this is the important time to do that, and not stay quiet and not just let this fucking orange man take control over everything and make us lose hope and power. Like, we still have power. The people have power, like you said. Like, when we unite, there is nothing greater. So I am excited to see what the people are going to do. Obviously, it's scary and it's a scary time to live in, but I hope there is hope. That's all I can say. And yeah, that's basically it. That's just been my thoughts, and I'm sad, but you can't dwell on something you can't control. You can only fix things you can control. So like you said, focusing on what you can do, the little things will get us through together. Yeah.
Completely agree. Thank you so much, Julie, for sharing that because yeah, I've also seen that. Like I got in a full-on argument with this black man on Instagram, saying that he was gonna vote for Trump because he was the more godly candidate. And I also agree. I'm just like, where would God have wanted this? Where would he have acted like that? Like this is not anything close to godly. Like also, can we talk about how he didn't put his hand on the Bible when he was getting sworn in? Like that's a demon right there, okay? Like I think that was a little bit of a sign. But
The
yeah,
devil, not God. He is the devil. I don't know.
literally.
It was just a tool he used to manipulate people. And that's
Mhm.
disgusting to me. The fact that you're using like God's name to lure these people that just don't know any better, it's just disgusting. Like there's a special place in hell for a person like you. I'm sorry. And if
Mhm.
anyone doesn't believe, I mean, it is what it is. Like you believe what you believe. I believe that man is the devil himself. And God will never, I don't think he would ever approve of something like this. I think it's horrible.
No, it's really sad to see for sure. And I'm really thankful for everyone in this group for doing the work and like actually trying to educate themselves because I think that is a really common thread in MAGA cult supporters. They don't educate themselves. They don't look further than what they see him say, you know, and then they end up getting screwed, just like the rest of us. But Genesis, yes.
I just want to start by saying thank you so much to Julie and Rachel for sharing that, just because I'm not somebody who follows the Christian faith exactly, but I do believe in light and love. What we're experiencing definitely is not that. Um, sorry, I was reading what was just posted in the chat, but yeah, exactly. I agree with Jelly. I think that this is very, very extremely similar to when Black people were brought from Africa on boats, and they would use the Bible against us to tell us that we were sins and that we didn't exist in the Bible. And so then therefore we weren't worthy of God. And like, that is exactly what he's doing. And it is super, super unfortunate because for closed-minded people, they assume everything he is saying is correct. And if they actually like it did make me really sad to see all of these like heavily devoted Christians still backing him. And I was like, do you even exactly like do you even did you even read the Bible? Like I did study it in high school a little bit. Like I haven't spent time with it, but I just even as somebody who maybe doesn't follow it directly, but has taken the time to um read some of it and study it, I know that what he's doing is not following the word of God in the Christian way. And so it is super, super upsetting to see it used against people in that way. So again, I am really mostly saying this as like as an example of again somebody who maybe doesn't follow the same beliefs as you guys still can see the harm in this. And like that is what's the most important thing here, is not to go, well, I don't believe that so it doesn't affect me. No, to go, no, yeah, I can see that this is crazy and how it's affecting you, and now it's affecting me because I can see that it's hurting so many people. So I just wanted to add that because I am appreciative of that perspective, because again, I'm not somebody who is enthralled in that. And so it is interesting to see, because that is really scary. And I didn't see that. I didn't see that he didn't put his hand on the Bible. And that is really, I don't even know. It made my stomach drop when you said that. I was like, this is like a horror movie.
It is. It's a real life horror movie. And Jelly said, and to any Christian supporters, to him, he created a Trump Bible, which is blasphemy. Like, how do you not realize he is definitely not a man of God? And my brother said, crazy. It's true. Like, I just, at this point, there's like so much research you could do to figure these things out. And it's hard because a lot of these sources now are tainted. Like, it's like you don't even know what source you can believe anymore. So I guess the best I do, I try to use the techniques I was taught in school. I don't even know if that's right anymore, but I just try to find the most non-biased sources, normally the worldwide sources, instead of local sources like world news. That's normally more reliable than local things because it's not leaning one way or another as much. I mean, everything leans one way or another, but that's normally where I go to. Um, I think even though with like our news sources, we haven't been told a lot of things because I just saw on TikTok that like the world is protesting for us right now, and it was like not spread in our country because they don't want us to know that the world is on our side. They're like, damn, this is messed up. What is happening to these people? And they're protesting for us right now, and it's not even spreading in our country. So yeah, it's hard, but I just keep trying my best to stay informed the best that I can. And Mia? Mia, did you have something to say, girl? Or no?
I do. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm on my phone and the Zoom setup is all weird. Anyways,
Okay, no worries.
sorry. I first just wanted to say I really enjoy what everybody's been saying, and I do have to go soon. So I just wanted to say a closing comment. I really liked, Rachel, what you said about everybody speaking the same language. And I think when we're talking about politics, metaphorically speaking the same language is really important, because oftentimes I feel like we can't even agree on objective fact. So being able to educate each other in small ways of understanding vocabulary, like when we were talking about DEI earlier, I think a lot of people are misinformed on what it actually is. And if we just had kind of a basic understanding of, quote unquote, speaking the same language, of being able to understand truly what it would mean for us to agree on, like what DEI is, what healthcare for women is, what it means to be trans, that, you know, what gender means, just these definitions that are often misunderstood. And so I really liked what Rachel was saying, and how Julie bounced off of that, of like bringing everybody together would be really helpful, and to be able to build community and understanding each other through a thoughtful and helpful way, to be able to build each other up and understand that although not everybody necessarily speaks the same language, but that if we could understand each other and understand the same basis of what it means to understand politics, I think would be really helpful. So, and also to start small, like to help those people around us who maybe don't understand certain terms in the news or what really is going on. We can all help each other understand, like the basic objectives of what we can do to help make things better.
That's a really good point. A lot of people really have a misunderstanding of these things. I feel like one easy way to make change would be like advocating in your workplace for like a DEI workshop where it explains the definition of DEI, or doing your best to go out into the community and explain these things. Like we do a lot of workshops. Well, we did last year at least at my school. We haven't really done that this year. Wonder why. About like these definitions of like what these different terms mean. And I think it's proven. I don't know if you guys have seen those TikToks where they like go around interviewing people and they're like, what does this mean? And it's like something about a woman, or what does this mean? And it's something about DEI, and they just have like this completely wrong answer about it. So I think that is really the first step, is getting on the same page of like what this stuff means, so that maybe you're not so threatened by it because it's not what you think it is. And it's actually a good thing. It's beneficial. So yeah, definitely agree. Thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Before we have Genesis read her journal entry, I just wanted to see if Siri, I know you're on here, girl. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to add at all? I don't know if she would want to.
Sorry, girl. I was driving. I was just listening to everyone. But I wanted to say I really enjoyed Rachel and Julie, your comments, and I absolutely believe, I agree exactly how I can't stand the way they use Christianity as like a way to pull in a lot of Christians. Because Ray knows this, but some of you guys don't. My grandfather's actually a pastor, so my whole family's like been in the church, and a foundation in my family. So it's really sad to see, some people that I grew up with that thought that some of the ideas that Trump was saying he was going to do when it came to Christianity, that it was going to be a thing. And now they're starting to see how like all of the things he was saying he was going to do for us is the opposite of what he's doing. And I think it's really sad that the reason why the country is the way it is right now is just because everyone is just so misinformed. There's so much like misinformation spreading, whether it be like on the news or social media and our TV shows, and people aren't like fact checking things the way they should be. And I just hope that like one day we can trying to think of how I want to put it. I just hope that we can just like try to educate each other so that we can stand up the rest of the world who is protesting for us, and we can abolish, like the government that's trying to hurt like our working and like lower class people right now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Completely agree. Like, we deserve a government that is for the people, not for themselves, like we have right now. And honestly, we've been heading in this direction for a while, I think. So I was talking to Julie about this. I feel like this is an opportunity for all of us to see the ugliest parts of ourselves. Like right now, the ugliest part of America is like on display. We have to look at it, see the narcissism, see the evil, and we have to stand up for ourselves. We have to use empathy and use the best parts of ourselves to overcome that. So Julie used a little skincare metaphor before. She was like, for your skin to get better, you got to have all the bad stuff come out first. And I hope that's what this is, just an opportunity for us to open our eyes to things. So with that, Genesis, go ahead and share your journal entry and then we can close out. Thank you, guys.
I feel like really, really bad about this because my journal entry is really sad. I wrote this just as kind of like a mental like vomit. I first would like to say that I'm not a writer. I usually, when I'm dealing with stuff pretty heavy on my heart and my mind, I talk to people about it. And usually when I write stuff down is when it's like real bad. Right? And I gotta put it out there. So I apologize for like having this like sad note, but I'm feeling a lot better now and feeling a lot more hopeful now. But this was really based off of like how I was feeling like right after the election, kind of right before and right after the election, like where my head was at. My heart is heavy. I feel hopeless and helpless. My existence doesn't feel valid. I've been a Black woman my whole life and recently came to terms with my sexuality. And instead of feeling joyous or relieved, I feel scared. I don't feel any sort of relief at all, actually. I feel like I should go back into the closet, actually. I feel like I'm signing myself up for more hate, being out. I'm scared for my future. I feel like I should fight, but I feel weak. They want me to fight, but isn't that what I've been doing? I'm so tired. I can't afford to be tired, but I don't know what to do. I can't afford anything. I can't pay for my groceries, let alone my existence. Why don't you like me? Why don't they like me? And why doesn't America want me? It's a little short, but literally I vomited it out. I want to say like it was probably like the darkest my headspace has been about like the political climate in a really, really, really long time because immediately I was scared. And then I kind of had some relief just because, there's that space between the election results and then inauguration. And after the holidays, I had a good holidays, but kind of came back and all that fear kind of came flooding back when I realized all the bills he was trying to pass, like when I realized how dystopian our society has come to, like it's really disheartening. And I think it is really important to acknowledge like how hard and heavy it is to feel like you've been fighting your whole entire life to just get a seat at the table. And now, even more so, majority of the country had just made a decision that they don't want you at their table. They never did. And even what you were saying earlier, like all of the companies and schools and administrations, all these social institutions very quickly revoking their DEI and very quickly pulling back, it makes you feel so unwanted and it makes you so scared. And I wanted to add on also to what Angie Tiffy said about like being the most scared ever. I feel like when Trump got elected the first time, I was nervous, but I also was like, it's going to be okay. Like we're going to work it out. But this is the first time that I've felt so much genuine anxiety about existing in the world, because also I was so nervous that like regular people in the grocery store were going to start being super violent towards me. And again, like coming to terms, like I finally have come to terms with my sexuality and coming out, and all of the rhetoric he's spreading about the LGBTQ plus community taking away reproductive rights that don't affect him because he's a man. I don't understand. Like he has no, like, it makes me so mad and it makes me so frustrated, and it has affected my mental health greatly, which I think is really important that we acknowledge. And with that being said, as much as it is very sad and disheartening, I think this is the most important time to support each other and check in on the people you love. Again, even if you can't completely like relate to their struggles and what they're going through, it is important to still tell them that you're there for them and that you love them. Like I remember walking into the kitchen and telling my mom, like, I'm so scared. And my mom is white passing. And the first thing she said to me, she's like, I don't want you to be scared, because she says, no matter what, I will fight for you regardless, rain or shine. And that really means a lot, especially when, like, I live in a very, very white community, and so it can feel very isolating. I don't know a lot of LGBTQ plus other people like of color around me as well. So like I honestly feel like the biggest minority in the whole world, right? Queer, Black, and a woman. I felt like I was just getting punched left and right. I am trying to like take this opportunity to like liberate those around me, but as I said before, it is more important now than ever that we are supportive of each other and check in on one another to make sure that people don't know, so people know that they're not alone through this, and that even if you don't have the energy to fight right now, that you're willing to fight for them. And yeah, I just think that sometimes we get so stuck in the idea of like we all need to be doing something that we forget that some people are so tired of having to remind people that they matter, or so tired and exhausted of having to ask, mind you, not for basic human rights. And so sometimes it's nice to pick those people up and go, hey, I got you for a minute. Let me pick you up, and let's try to get back on our feet and continue this fight. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. It's very vulnerable for me to speak about my journal. But yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, Rainice, for letting me speak and talk about that. Again, apologies, that was kind of sad, but I feel better talking about it with you guys. This is a very cool environment, and I am incredibly grateful for it.
Yeah, that's what this is for, to just get all of our feelings out, because it is really sad what's going on. Like, it is really scary what's going on. Like, we have to talk about that. It's so real for so many communities. And yeah, I'm just grateful for all of you guys, and grateful for the people that do stand up and fight. Like Genesis said, we get tired. We've been fighting this fight for so long. We've been desensitized to a lot of these things. Like for me, I really didn't feel when a lot of this violence was taking place in my community, when a lot of things politically were happening towards my community. I didn't feel. This election definitely woke me up, and I'm feeling a lot of things with it. So I can completely relate to everything that you said, Genesis. Like, all those feelings are true for me too. I feel like mine kind of had like a similar like tone to it in the beginning. So I think, yeah, just definitely being a person of a marginalized population, like, you can relate to those feelings, right now in this time. But I am thankful for everybody here, and thankful that we all were able to get everything off of our chest. And I just hope that we continue to spread, education, also just support people and educate ourselves on things. Um, Grateful for Tierno, president of our Black Law Student Association, for coming and supporting me here. He's literally the only support I have at my school. And so it just means a lot to just have like somebody, like, all you need is a little bit of support. And so I'm really grateful for that. Yes, thank you guys so much. Any last words before we close out?
I think we should just really end on that positive note and just reiterate, like Rachel and Julie said, like we really have to lead with hope and love. We can't get stuck in that place of fear. And a really good way to stay unstuck is to do any small kind of service for someone just out of an act of kindness, because you can't be angry, depressed, resentful, or scared if you're doing something kind.
Facts. And it's about to be Black History Month, and we all about to be obnoxious as fuck with it. Okay? Okay. Anyways, love you guys. I'm gonna freaking end the Zoom now.